Gambia, Angola, China Holding, Gash, producers of the finest tomato paste in the Gambia. Jaja tomato paste, available in 5 kilos, 1 kilo and in sachets. For wholesale and retail, visit our factory at Banjulonding. We are also producers of Jaja mineral water, cool, clear and fresh. Gash, Gambia, Angola, China Holding, with headquarters at Fatu Golden Plaza, Mile 7, Bertel Harding Highway. Gash Group also provides the best security company, Gash Security, for your offices, warehouses, homes and personal property. Gash Group for all your construction projects, offering you quality water reticulation for your gardens, pump irrigation, tidal irrigation projects and all types of buildings. You can contact Gash on 396-7894, 700-8993, 373-0259. Visit us at Gash Global Group on Battle Harden Highway, Fatu Golden Plaza. Our website www.gashglobal.com. Gambia, Angola, China Holding, Gash.
It's a warm reception to our studio here in Sarakunda. This is Star TV News with me, Maimuna Fadera. In the headlines tonight, security is at the top of our agenda, says President Barrow. Nurses and doctors are doing everything possible within their powers and resources to deliver as investigation is launched on patients' death, says hospital PRO. Targo to embark on international tree planting. Government still not helpful to women in Saro. Fish is very expensive, says vendors on the international scene. Sudan floats call for government to help affected people. Daniel Prude Rogers, the police official, stepped down amid criticisms. Trump reverses Obama bid to prevent racism in U.S. housing. Well, those were the headlines, and now the news in details. Upon arrival from the 57th ordinary session of ECOWAS in Niamey, Niger President Adama Barrow said among other issues discussed was the security sector, which his government holds at the top of its agenda. The other issue that were discussed, he said, were the global pandemic, the recent happenings in Mali, to name but a few, while Jacqueline Colley has more.
The president acknowledged that it is important to keep the nation well secured, and that is why the security sector is at the top of his agenda in governing the Gambia, adding that to develop a country, it needs to be stable at first.
Security issue is everybody's concern. You have seen what is happening in Mali. You have seen what is happening in Niger, terrorism and other things. And these countries are all the same. We are all in the same region. We are all connected. So I think this concern is important for the Gambia. We want to make sure also Gambia is stable and secure, and our region is stable and secure. So this is our priority, and that is top in our agenda. We cannot develop if we are not secure. There is no stability.
Considering the state of the pandemic, which is a global problem, President Barrow said that it has a great impact and has basically changed the way we live as well as enslaved everyone.
I think it's important for us to discuss, because President Buhari is the champion for COVID and ECOWAS. So he gave a report. Basically his report is we have to collaborate. We have to work together to fight COVID. But we cannot do it without the support of our people, because we don't have medication for COVID. So we have to respect the guidelines, the health advice for COVID. And also they went further. I think we have been very ambitious that African scientists should also come together so that we can develop medicine to cure COVID. This is definitely what we discussed, and I think it's very, very important.
Meanwhile, the President of Ghana, His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo, has been elected as the new ECOWAS Chairman of Heads of State. He took over from the President of Niger, Mr. Muhammadu Issoufou. Furthermore, the issues discussed are stated by President Barrow, where the ECOWAS Single Currency Program, ECOWAS Vision 2050, and the upcoming presidential and parliamentary elections in Burkina Faso, Côte d'Ivoire, Ghana, Guinea, and Niger. Jacqueline Colley, reporting for Star TV News.
The public relations officer of the Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital, in an interview with Star TV, said that despite the allegation on the death of Fatoumata Diba of Bakau, the police has to note that the nurses and doctors of the hospital are doing everything possible within their powers and resources available to them in order to deliver to expectations. He noted that sending back emergency patients is not what they do, but an investigation has been launched. Well, Dada Cham conducted the interview and she now reports.
Mr. K. Basane said that as of now, the management is taking all the necessary steps in investigating the allegation that the said woman, Fatoumata Diba of Bakau, was on Tuesday at the ASB clinic to give birth, but due to some complications, she was rushed to the Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital and was allegedly torn down as they fear she was suffering from COVID-19. As the information circulated on the internet, the late Fatoumata was said to have delivered her first twins without assistance from medical personnel, and then a cesarean section was carried out to deliver the second twins. She had complication after the C-section and was rushed to the Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital in Banjul. She was said to have been battling breathlessness when she arrived at the hospital, where she was allegedly torn down as they fear she had COVID-19. P.R.O. Sane explained to us the circumstances that could have been behind the allegation.
There is a lot of issues surrounding this one person. What are the issues there? The National COVID Response Team. We were told, the whole nation was told, that when you suspect somebody of having such a problem, what you do is you contact 1025. That number is not Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital. The lady was in one hospital. They said that they suspected the lady to have COVID-19 virus. My assumption is, where should they call? If the government say we call, or the ministry say we call 1025, you made referral to this institution. We made it clear in Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital that we are taking care of only very serious cases, emergency situations, emergency cases. If Chaku was brought to this institution because he had complications in giving birth, that would be considered emergency and that would be attended by this institution immediately.
The PRO said that the investigation is still on, and before the end of the week, a result will be produced for the next steps to be taken. He confirmed that all discussions and legal communications have been done.
What we do is, as soon as we become aware of an incident, we launch an investigation. And that investigation has to be done, including each and every member of the management team. Discussions will take place. The concerned people within that particular area where that incident took place would be called in, reprimanded, to have explanations with regards to that sad event. Has that been done? That has been done, and it is continuing. What we did as a management was, when this incident happened, it was everywhere on the social media. I got calls from other media outlets for me to shed light on that. I cannot make unilateral statements with regards to this institution. And therefore, I pleaded to the people concerned, or at least those people who have shown great interest in it, to distance themselves away from making statements that might tamper with our investigation.
On Monday, the 7th, the hospital management released a statement stating that, in the interest of transparency, the outcome of the investigation shall be communicated in due course. Reporting for Star TV News, I am Dara Cham.
The Together Africa Gambia organization, in collaboration with the Young Africa Network for Global Goals and other partners, will be embarking on an international tree planting of 2,000 seedlings in the Gambia, featuring at least 10 people from different African countries. Our reporter Maria Madam has the rest of the story.
The international tree planting is expected to bring 10 individuals from different African countries, such as Nigeria, Senegal, Kenya, Cameroon, and Burundi. This occasion will be taking place in October, where 2,000 seedlings are to be planted across the country. Dam Toure, Secretary General of TAGO, explains the aims and objectives of the tree planting occasion.
To retain the loss of the forest, we want to retain it. And by doing that, we have to plant trees because it's not a doubt that we know that our forests have been disappearing. So what can we do? We must provide trees. That's why as Together Africa Gambia organization, we are able to be energetic to lobby such kind of project. As Mr. Lowe has mentioned, this project is an African project where African countries are benefiting. With Gambia is not an exception. So we deem it fit that the environment is a concern because we all know that human beings and plants, they are reciprocal.
Lamin Jame, chairman of TAGO, highlighted some of their plans towards the tree planting occasion, as he mentioned going on a nationwide tour for data collection prior to the occasion.
But also, we also going to have our regional coordinators in all the regions that are going to work in hand with the national youth councils in all the regions to make sure this project, stands in all the regions. Because the reason why we are doing that, to have these regional coordinators for Together Africa Gambia organization, is to taking care of these plants if they are planted. It's not about to plant the trees and then you forget about it. But now we want to plant these trees for the sustainability of that particular community so that they can be taken care of from the animals. Because if you look at some of the forestry, they die. So, but now, before doing that also, we want to have our data collection in bees that we want to go to these regions to make sure whatever variety that they need, the confirmation would come from the community that this is the type of trees that they want. Then of which from there we also work on their demand that they give us.
Lamin Lo, Director of Communication of Young Africa Network for Global Goals, had this to say.
If that we are going to realize that the particular operation we are moving on as a tree planting operation will work onto a success. And let's also realize that the Sustainable Development Goals are goals set for everybody. It is not only for Africans. But we are Africans and we have to know that Africa within has to be solved. And that is why we also want to champion the struggle to actualize that the Sustainable Development Goal 13, that is climate action. We want to create an environment whereby everybody can live. I reference to his speech when he talked about the flora and also the fauna. That is to make sure that we live in a particular place whereby everybody lives peacefully. Being a human being, being a tree, or being animals as well, we all deserve a life where we can have our sustenance. And that is why Sustainable Development Goal 13 says that the climate must be taken good care of. And if we talk about climate, we must also look at the environment where we live. We must look at the forest. We must look at the wildlife. We must look at how do we take care of the environment where we live as human beings. And for so long we maintain that humanism in us as individuals, then we can also make sure that our development goals will also be achieved.
Monitoring and evaluating are invaluable tools for determining that maximum results are achieved and that funds invested are most effectively used. However, TAGO will conduct a follow-up monitoring decides projects at the end of the 12 months, and a project impact assessment will be carried out to assess the achievements and impacts of the networks at community or regional levels. An audit report of funds will also be provided for the sponsors of the particular project duration. TAGO is a non-partisan and profit cultural and environmental organization established in 2018 and legally registered in 2020. However, workers shall work closely with government and other stakeholders in culture and environmental development in empowering women and youth. It is the leading organization on cultural and environmental activities in the Gambia. Its areas of emphasis are working with groups that engage in sensitizing women and youths on the diverse cultures in connection to environmental concerns in the Gambia and Africa at large. Mariama Dem, reporting for Star TV News.
Women who come from different places in the Gambia gather at Denton Bridge to sieve groundnut waste, which is dumped by the Groundnut Corporation after sealing. The women work to contribute to the welfare of their families rather than sitting at home, as they live from hand to mouth through working hard by taking the leftover groundnut and separate the chaff and the seed. This woman told Star TV that the government is yet to come to their aid. Our Sana reports.
Mariama Juf, one of the hard-working women, said that the first difficulty they encounter is the issue of vehicles. they will stand by the road for hours before having a vehicle. According to her, they sometimes used to go to their workplace for nothing because they do not gain anything at work. She further said that they did not even receive the bags of rice which were distributed, and they also have children at home. Those children are the reason why they work hard to put food on the table. She added that the rainy season has made it difficult for them to have access to groundnut waste. Therefore, they only gain money from few gardeners who need the waste. Next to speak was Jainab Sise, who also urged the government to come to their aid by providing facilities for them to make a better living with their families. In her explanation, she said that it is very hard for them to have clean water around that end, so they have to walk a long distance in order to have clean water. For Star TV News, I am Awasane.
Star TV went to Sarakunda market to inquire vendors as to why fish is exorbitant not only at the Sarakunda market but the rest of the country. Hadijaju has the rest of the details.
Speaking to Star TV, Mariama Kaba, a vendor at the Sarakunda market, said that fish is very expensive lately. She said that she sells her fish at a price of $50 for 3 because she buys them at a high price. She further said that most of the Gambians who are at the river fishing don't have their own boats, so most of the fishermen are Senegalese. Owing to the pandemic, the Senegalese fishermen went back to their country, which has made fish very expensive. She further urged the customers to be patient with them because this is not something they wish for. Fatou Job also had this to say.
These days, things are very hard in the market for both the customers and the vendors. The way we get fish is very difficult and expensive as well. But we thank Allah that things are getting better.
She further lamented that they face so many difficulties in selling fish to their customers because if you tell the price of the fish to customers, some will even walk away or even try to insult you, not knowing that they face so many difficulties in obtaining fish. Finally, she thanked the fishermen who are at the fishing centers because they try by all means to get fish for them. Hadilum also said that there is no fish at the fishing center where they get fish. She bought her fish for $2,000 and she had no profit yet. So she had to freeze them so that tomorrow she will sell the remaining fish.
Those days, we could buy a basket of fish for $300. But now we get it for $2,000. There are other customers who don't have understanding when it comes to the situation we are facing in the market. So we urge the government to help us, especially with the women at the market trying to make ends meet to feed our families.
She further said that the big boats are not operating because people are saying that the Chinese are the ones fishing in our river. This is why it is always difficult for our fishermen to catch enough fish since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic in the Gambia 6 months ago. Many business entities are faced with many challenges as a result of the pandemic. Fish dealers are also enduring a big challenge due to the virus, as big fishermen who are believed to be Senegalese have stuck home due to the border closure, which has given birth to the hike of fish price. Reported for Star TV News, I am Hadijad.
Well, those were the local stories. We'll be back with the international news after the short commercial break. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Gambia, Angola, China Holding, Gosh, producers of the finest tomato paste in the Gambia. Jeja tomato paste, available in 5 kilos, 1 kilo and in sachets. For wholesale and retail, visit our factory at Banjulunding. We are also producers of Jeja mineral water, cool, clear and fresh. Gosh, Gambia, Angola, China Holding, with headquarters at Fatu Golden Plaza, Mile 7, Bertel Harding Highway. Gosh Group also provides the best security company, Gash Security, for your offices, warehouses, homes and personal property. Gash Group for all your construction projects, offering you quality water reticulation for your gardens, pump irrigation, tidal irrigation projects and all types of buildings. You can contact Gash on 396-7894, 700-8993, 373-0259. Visit us at Gash Global Group on Battle Harden Highway, Fatu Golden Plaza. Our website www.gashglobal.com. Gambia, Angola, China Holding, Gash.
Welcome back after that short commercial break, and we now look at the news beyond our borders. Sudan floods call for government to help affected people. At least 110 people have now died from severe flooding in Sudan as the Nile River reaches unprecedented levels. Hundreds of thousands of people have been displaced. The government has declared a 3-month state of emergency. Al Jazeera's Heba Morgan reports from Khartoum.
This is how Nafahat Abdurrahman arrives to the doorsteps of her home these days. She comes to see if the water, which flooded it nearly 2 weeks ago, has receded. The yard, which was once dry and where she used to spend most of her evenings, is still covered with water from the Nile River, which is now steady after rising to levels not seen in more than a century.
We were surprised this year when the Nile waters entered our neighborhood. We didn't know what to do. There are no sandbags. There is no one to come and help us with what's happening. We decided to act on our own and bring sandbags, but we found the water coming in from all directions.
Much of Nafahat's neighborhood in the southern part of Sudan's capital Khartoum is now flooded. Some homes have collapsed as a result of the force of the water, as the river, which was once nearly 3 kilometers away, became one with the area. The levels of the Nile started rising 3 weeks ago, causing destruction as it flooded its banks and flowed into villages and towns. More than 100 people have died in the past month as a result, and more than 100,000 homes have been damaged or destroyed. More than 500,000 people have been displaced. Most left their homes with the help of their neighbors who've also lost their homes.
The people here are struggling. Despite all the difficulties, we're helping each other out because we can't abandon each other. We grew up together, so we can't just turn our backs on each other. We have to make sure that everyone here gets out safely because we're part of one neighborhood.
One neighborhood in the midst of dozens that have seen the same devastation. Those affected by the floods say most of the response so far, like the building of this makeshift barrier using sandbags, has been their own. Volunteers have also formed groups to assist, helping with food and collecting donations. And all have criticized the government, saying, considering floods from the Nile happen every year, its response has been far from enough. Sudan's government declared a 3-month state of emergency days ago and announced the country is now a natural disaster zone. It says that while plans were put in place to respond to this year's floods, the levels exceeded expectations.
We are using sandbags to block the areas that are being swamped. However, we cannot use them along the whole river. Over the past few days, water levels reached records high. Even bridges were flooded. Residents in affected areas have been evacuated, and warnings were sent to those exposed.
After the destruction and loss of lives, the Nile is slowly starting to recede. But hundreds of thousands of people are now desperate for shelter and aid. They say they hope the government will soon get them out of this crisis. Heba Morgan, Al Jazeera, Khartoum.
Daniel Pruitt, Register police official, stepped down amid criticisms. The police chief of Register in the U.S. state of New York has stepped down, along with top police leaders. It follows days of public outrage over the death of Daniel Pruitt, a black man who died by suffocation while in police custody. Protest broke out after his family released last week body camera video and written reports of the March incident that they obtained through a public record request. Some viewers may find the footage disturbing. Al Jazeera's Mike Hannon reports from the U.S. Capitol, Washington, D.C.
Protests underway for the 7th consecutive day in New York State's 3rd largest city. They began last Wednesday following the release of the body cam footage of Daniel Pruitt's arrest by police. Police say Pruitt told them he had coronavirus and started spitting. At that stage, they put what is called a spit bag over his head. Pruitt died a week later, and the medical examiner ruled his death a homicide. Now, amidst the ongoing protests, the Rochester police chief has resigned, claiming in a written statement that there had been what he called a mischaracterization and politicization of his actions following Daniel Pruitt's death. The early retirement confirmed by the city's mayor.
While the timing and tenor of these resignations is difficult, we have faced tough times before. I truly believe that we will get through this. I will be meeting with City Council to chart a path forward. I can assure this community that I am committed to instituting the reforms necessary in our police department. I know that there are many questions, but this just occurred. And honestly, I do not have the answers today.
This is just the latest wave of protests following police action against African American individuals. There were nationwide demonstrations following the killing of George Floyd in May this year. The 46-year-old died after a white police officer knelt on his neck for more than 7 minutes. Then a fresh round of protests following the shooting of Jacob Blake in Kenosha, Wisconsin on the 23rd of last month. The 29-year-old African-American was shot in the back several times during arrest in full view of his children sitting in his car. Blake is paralyzed from the waist down. The U.S. Attorney General recently denied there was systematic racism within the police, making the claim that, in his words, it is very rare for an unarmed African American to be shot by a white police officer. The millions that throughout much of this year have protested the police killings of African Americans would disagree, pointing at the death of Daniel Prude in Rochester as yet another tragic confirmation of independent statistics that black Americans are as much as 10 times more likely to be shot by police than white ones. Mike Hanna, Al Jazeera, Washington.
President Trump reverses Obama bid to prevent racism in U.S. housing. Effective from Tuesday, the Trump administration is replacing an Obama-era rule that sought to end racial segregation and discrimination in American housing. President Trump says the rollback of the rule, which forced cities to report on housing discrimination in their communities, is to give local governments more freedom from federal regulations. But the move also fits neatly into Trump's campaign strategy that ties race to the safety of suburban communities. Al Jazeera's Hades Castro has the rest of the story.
It's a beautiful day in this Washington suburb of Silver Spring, Maryland, and the election is less than 2 months away. That means over picnics, the discussion is sometimes politics.
I think that we need a change in the United States. We need a new leader.
It's very important for us to take it seriously. We're going to make that difference in 2 months.
Neighborhoods like these are critical in picking who is president. Suburbs contain nearly half of all U.S. voters, and in 2016, they delivered a narrow victory to Donald Trump. But this year, he is struggling to keep those votes.
You've reached 911. I'm sorry that there is no one here to answer your emergency call.
With polls showing Trump trailing Joe Biden in the suburbs, the Trump campaign has aired ads like these, playing to what the campaign believes to be the fears of white suburbanites.
We'll save our cities and our suburbs from the future of crime and chaos, corruption, and economic collapse that puppet Joe Biden would unleash on America.
But American suburbs are going through a dramatic transformation. Suburbs are now home to more immigrants and more African Americans, no longer the white enclaves of Trump's thinking.
He wrongly assumes that Black people and other people of color are not already integral members of suburban communities, and also wrongly assumes that white people in suburban communities are racists who want to keep everyone out.
But Trump continues to attack Democrats and their housing policies, canceling an Obama-era rule that had forced cities to report on housing discrimination in their local communities. New Orleans had made strides under the Obama rule, says fair housing advocate Delphinette Martin. She says Trump will likely lose votes by demonizing minorities.
He's not really concerned about our vote. He's, again, trying to appease and tap into the mindset of those who already follow him.
It remains to be seen whether Trump's racially charged campaign strategy works to sway those few who remain undecided. Heidi Jo Castro, Al Jazeera, Silver Spring, Maryland.
And before we end the news, a quick recap of our main headlines. Upon arrival from the 57th Ordinary Session of ECOWAS in Niamey, Niger President Adama Barrow said among other issues discussed was the security sector, which his government holds at the top of its agenda. The issue that were discussed, he said, were the global pandemic, the recent happenings in Mali, to name but a few. The public relation officer of the Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital, in an interview with Star TV, said that despite the allegation of the death of Fatoumata Diba of Bakau, the public has to note that the nurses and doctors of the hospital are doing everything possible within their powers and resources available to them in order to deliver to the expectation. He noted that sending back emergency patients is not what they do, but an investigation has been launched. The Together Africa Gambia organization, in collaboration with the Young Africa Network for Global Goals and other partners, will be embarking on an international tree planting of 2,000 seedlings in the Gambia, featuring at least 10 people from different African countries. Women who come from different places in the Gambia gathered at Denton Bridge to save groundnut waste, which is dumped by the Groundnut Corporation after sealing. The women work to contribute to the welfare of their families rather than sitting at home, as they live from hand to mouth through working hard by taking the leftover groundnut and separate the chaff and the seed. This woman told Star TV that the government is yet to come to their aid. Star TV went to the Sarakunda market to inquire vendors as to why fish is exorbitant not only at the Sarakunda market but the rest of the country. At least 110 people have now died from severe flooding in Sudan as the Nile River reaches unprecedented levels. Hundreds of thousands of people have been displaced. The government has declared a 3-month state of emergency. The police chief of register in the U.S. state of New York has stepped down. Along with top police leaders, it follows days of public outrage over the death of Daniel Prude, a black man who died by suffocation while in police custody. Protests broke out after his family released last week body camera video and written reports of the March incident that they obtained through a public records request. Some viewers may find the footage disturbing. Effective from Tuesday, the Trump administration is replacing an Obama-era rule that sought to end racial segregation and discrimination in American housing. President Trump says the rollback of the rule, which forced cities to report on housing discrimination in their communities, is to give local governments more freedom from federal regulations. But the move also fits neatly into Trump's campaign strategy that ties race to the safety of suburban communities. Well, that's all for this edition of the news. Do enjoy the rest of our programs and join us tomorrow for more news. Thanks for watching and do have a wonderful night.